Hello, welcome to the midweek edition, Wednesday, of Breakfast Central. I am Benga Aborowa. Sit back, relax, and have a nice show.
What was that?
Why are you guys laughing at my intro? I'm also professional like you guys. I don't interrupt you when you do your
Sorry.
I just wanted to leave it
short, sharp, and sweet.
A kiss, you know, keep it short and simple.
Okay, I'll do the same. Hello guys, you're welcome to Breakfast Central. I am Olive Emodi. Sit back, relax, and enjoy yourself.
Then blow a kiss. Mwah.
And then I'll follow by saying, hello, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Mwah.
You don't tell them your name.
I'm Johansson, thank you.
Bro, if that's the way we do it, I don't think we'll have more than 3 viewers. I'm glad we are more than that.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. And like the spirit of what was circulating some few weeks ago, we say, brotherly, welcome. Yes, welcome to Breakfast Central. Wow, a lot has happened since we left the studio and exited for Jasiri and other programs that came up here on News Central. And by the way, thanks to all those who have consistently stayed true to News Central, your offices, hospitals, even some of those public buildings, even your homes.
Hotels.
Thank you so much. Hotels, yeah. Thanks for watching News Central. Thanks for making us your number one. And the reason is because, of course, we're diverse. We don't just focus on a certain thing. And guess what? We have quality programming all through from morning up until midnight. Yes. 24 hours, by the way.
Absolutely.
24 hours broadcast.
A special shout out to our YouTube audience, and in particular, Mokunye Chukwuemeka, who always engages with our content whilst we're live. Thank you so much for always being a part of the show. And now to get into today's show proper. A viral video has garnered reactions, angry reactions from Nigerians about how a youth corps member was treated. Now, members of a vigilante group in Anambra State visited the NYC camp on the 23rd of July 2025, accusing them of being internet fraudsters, otherwise known as Yahoo Yahoo. And in this video that will enrage you, I must warn you that the video would thoroughly enrage you. You could see the NYC corps member pleading and begging, and against all odds, or against her cries, or on the backdrop of her tears, these people kept beating, hitting, and finally stripped her naked.
So viewer discretion is advised.
Yeah, viewer discretion is advised. Let's take a look at this video. Right, now that video was taken, the assault occurred on 23rd of July, like I mentioned, in the town of Oba in Anambra State, and the name of the young woman is Edema Eloho Jennifer. She was physically assaulted, had her clothes torn, and was stripped. And this was done by operatives of Agune Chamber, the vigilante arm in Anambra State. I beg your pardon. This has come, it's such a sour taste. It puts such a sour taste in the mouth because, again, it asks, really, are young people safe? How do we send people to go and serve? NYC corps members that are supposed to be under government protection are being assaulted by these people who are there potentially to protect the lives and the security of citizens. Anambra State PPRO has criticized this. The state has acted swiftly. They've informed us that the culprits have been picked up, detained, and that investigation is ongoing. So let's take a look at the video of the PPRO speaking about it.
The police command is aware of a trending video of where a corps member was assaulted in Oba community of Idemili South local government. We wish to condemn this act and say it's totally unacceptable and very, very unprofessional of the vigilante operatives. However, the command wants to state some facts clear that this video is not a recent development of the command. It happened sometime last month, and I am aware that there has been investigative proceedings that have been going on in that regard. The command also wished to state that the unavailability of the victim have further stalled the investigative proceedings, because I personally have contact with her, but she said that as soon as she comes into the state, that she will come to the command. While we are waiting for her to come forward to assist us in some of the facts that are clear, I wish to also let the members of the public know that the suspects involved in this particular unprofessional and condemnable act has been identified. And we are also working with the leadership of the vigilante group to make sure that we get justice for this victim. Having said that, I wish to also acknowledge the fact that these vigilante operatives have assisted us in making sure that the stability of the security in the state has been very, very formidable. Let me state another fundamental fact that is very key to this. The Commissioner of Police, in the person of CP Ikoyi Orutugu, when he took over as the Commissioner of Police, noted the fact that these vigilante members needed to be trained. And he wrote to the Inspector General of Police, and the Inspector General of Police graciously approved this training and reorientation for these vigilante members, and they were trained. And we are also working with the stakeholders, the leadership of these vigilante members, to make sure that we get justice for this core member. And we wish to also state that assault of any kind is a criminal offense, and the command will not condone it, and we condemn it and make sure that this incident does not happen again. As the operations of the vigilante members are now embellished, we're working with the security operatives in the state to make sure that such incident doesn't happen again.
I mean, I'm at a loss for words, and I think the Anambra State Police Command can do better than just telling us. We need evidence. You need to show that these culprits have been apprehended.
But how would they show evidence? Are they going to show you the person in prison?
Don't they, when they arrest and detain people, you can blur their faces, but let's know that, yes, these people. And also, okay, name names. Let's know that it's not faceless, or you're not just telling us that you are top of the situation. And again, this brings to the conversation of state policing, why people say, we're not ready. These are people that are supposedly trained by the Nigerian police, and look at their behavior. Look at what they are exhibiting. I mean, you don't even need training as a right-thinking human being. In what world is it right to assault and strip another human being of their dignity?
All right.
It's not right.
I'm glad that you mentioned it. When I saw that video, so many things come to mind. First of all, if we look at the security outfit that carried out this dastardly act, the Agune Chamber vigilantes, the reason for the vigilante is because of the gaps in the policing, right, in the state policing, the fact that there's not enough, there are inadequate inadequate police officers to guarantee the security and the safety of the citizens in Anambra State. So, of course, the vigilantes came up to fill in that gap. However, if we must have vigilantes filling in the gap, in the gaps created in the state police, what we should ensure is that they are thoroughly trained, not just thoroughly trained, that their details are captured, their biometrics, so that these people don't roam around anonymously. If not, if they're not thoroughly trained and captured, anybody can wake up tomorrow and say they are part of Agune Chamber, they are part of the vigilante group securing the society. That way, when one or two of them commit an offense or a crime, we're easily able to track who did it, and they're not shrouded in anonymity. That's one. Two, it talks about, again, the security and safety framework for NYSC officials. How do we send our young people to go and serve their nation? They're already in vulnerable places. The fact that a number of them are serving in places that they don't know, they cannot call home. Some of them are serving in states that they have never been to, that their first time visiting the state is because of the NYSC service. So if we cannot guarantee their safety, then there's a fundamental flaw. We've seen NYSC officials, NYSC core members being the victims or at the bottom of insecurity during elections, and now in this situation where they were alleged to be fraudsters. So we must strengthen frameworks to protect NYSC core members. The NYSC officials must work with the state police, with the government, and with the vigilantes to ensure that they can guarantee the safety and the security of NYSC officials. And then there should be hotlines when things like this. This happened on the 23rd of July. Today is what? Today is 20th of August, almost 1 month later, and we're still on this matter. So there should be ways in which we have we have toll-free lines, hotlines that they can call when they're in distress, and there should be speedy adjudication of the matter. Have a magistrate court, bring it before a court as quickly as possible, make the person, take a charge, and then we can speed up the matter. Although I must reference what the PPRO said, that the victim, unfortunately, has not been around, and as a result, that has stalled the case. So, I mean, I think that's what I would say, but it's really sad. That's a very, very depraved way. Even if you say that they are fraudsters, there are ways to handle it.
I mean,
vigilante's responsibility is to arrest and hand over to the police.
It boils down to the question, which, I mean, when I saw the entire thing, and I said to myself, in the current Nigerian insecurity state, whereby the country is battling with cases of insecurity, and we are now churning out paramilitary organizations, especially in different states, when the state security operatives are overwhelmed.
Gaps. Yeah.
So you try as much as possible to fill the gaps. And that has been happening in time memorial. Not bad. But we do also recall that in the southeast, there's a serious case of insecurity, especially perpetrated by even members of the southeast. So now you have Agunechemba, you have one of them. And you also have, one of them, Ibugagu, and so on. These are all paramilitary, bodies.
Vigilantes.
However, my question is, while we're churning out these things, did we set boundaries?
Are they properly trained?
Yes, exactly. And it's what we've also talked about on this show many times.
The danger of state policing.
The dangers of state policing. There should be boundaries for every single security operatives. And we have it already in our constitution. It's there. Every country has it. You have the Navy. Of course, you know where the Navy operates. You would never see the Navy come and start arresting people for cybercrime. We shouldn't expect to see that. The moment you see that, we know that there's a problem.
And then you arrest and prosecution.
Exactly.
I mean, that's jungle justice.
That's barbaric.
There's also the situation of the fact that when they set up Agunechemba, the question is, the moment I saw that video, I asked myself, I said, what were the boundaries that was given to this paramilitary body? Because what they did now was to become judge, jury, they castigated the individual, did all sorts in one particular
and the PPRO
sweep.
He also said they were trained by the police, apparently.
So it's a gap within the police again. They didn't
get the proper
job.
training. Exactly. How long? Did they do a vetting process to the members? Did they do a background check?
And if you check online, you will see that there have been repeated complaints about how they've acted, how they carry out their processes, and so on. We understand that you need to read the state of insecurity, but then again, you must not remove human rights. Everybody has rights.
When it's not that
you understand?
Norwegian neo-Nazi, Anders Breivik, in 2011, in the island of Utoya in Norway, he killed over 70 people. When he was arrested, not one single blow on his body. He was cuffed and arrested.
That's how it's done in civilized countries.
Exactly.
And then again, you don't just...
you beat animals, that's what you do.
Thank you. And Nigerians are not animals. And I also have another worry. This incident happened in July. Why the delay? Why now?
So that's again.
And that's where I'm going to commend the PPRO. Well done, police public relations officer Mr. Tochukwu. However, the problem is, why did you stay that long? Is it because the video had just leaked online? So therefore, let's quickly come out and tell Nigerians that we are aware of it. And this is what we see. And I keep saying that's why I would continue to give props to the police officers who come out to speak on time about incidences and tell Nigerians how they are handling it. It's not a case of trying to prove that Nami Sabi walk past. No, it's just a professional thing to do. If you go to New York, you go to other countries, you will see how the police officers will call for press conferences
state commands
and then
have
explain.
Like weekly press briefings.
Absolutely.
Where journalists.
Absolutely.
I think Lagos State does that. Ask questions about ongoing cases and things like that.
But the truth is, I understand that they may not be able to give press releases about every case, but I agree that this particular case, especially because Agunechemba is supposed to filling that gap that exists in the police, right, in the police force in Anambra State. They're sort of helping with insecurity. So yes, they should have given a brief. And what, unfortunately, if this is not decided upon quickly, if the perpetrators and the culprits are not made to face the law quickly, we're setting a precedent that will say that it's okay for this to happen, and it will happen again to another NYSC core member or another regular Nigerian in Anambra State, and nothing will happen.
You know the saddest thing about this that just happened? First of all, we like the fact that the police has eventually come out. We wouldn't want to hinge it on the fact that maybe because the video went viral, so they had to quickly put out a statement.
But that's why.
That's what I'm saying. That is what it looks. Yeah. That's
what it is.
But we're just going to say we don't want to hinge it only on that fact. We want to believe in a statement that he made that you're already on the case. However, the victim, they've not been able to. She's hoping to come back into the state, and so on and so forth. And we hope, and let's state it here, that one thing we'll continue to do here on Breakfast Central is to put a mark on stories like this and continue to churn out reminders as quickly as possible.
All right.
And that's exactly what we're going to do. But before we move on again, I just also want to highlight that while that lady, I want to say something here, and it's very key. While that lady was brutalized in that manner, I am shocked to my bone marrow that the NYSC did not put out a statement. That woman that called that other girl
actually criticized it. I will double check. Maybe we should check other responses, and then I'll double check.
Did she call that? Did she find out? Did they do that? Did they follow due process? Why am I saying this?
No protection.
When someone complained about the economy, there was a speedy action. When someone was brutalized,
silent.
I'm shocked that I'm sure that most of us never knew about this story until it was published just yesterday.
Yes.
Why? But when someone complained about the economy, even the body itself was so quick to call and say, hey, don't do that. Put out a press statement. Why didn't you, protecting core members, put out a statement too? It doesn't make you weak or doesn't make you look like you're an antagonist.
I mean, they're probably like us, and maybe they're just knowing about this video because it went out, and it would be nice to see.
Well, it's reported that the management of the NYSC on Tuesday condemned the assault of a core member in Oba, Idemili South local government area of Anambra State, describing the incident as both unwarranted and unacceptable. It would seem that Tuesday is yesterday's Tuesday.
I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that when it happened in July,
beyond statements, they need to put in protection mechanisms, like the suggestions Olive made earlier.
We have Nigeria divided. We have two. We have Niger. I keep saying it, and we have Ria. There are people who are untouchable. There are people who the law works for. There are people who everything. But the Rias are people who nothing concern us, concern you. If anything happens, it happens.
Some very big influential figures have reacted to this. Let's take some of the reactions on X.
Peter Obiver says, a cry for justice against barbarism in Anambra. I just read from, of course, he puts the newspaper there, and then he says, with deep concern about the inhumane treatment meted out to a young lady in Anambra State. As an Anambrian, myself, I feel not only ashamed, but also deeply heartbroken that such cruelty could happen in 2025 in a society that ought to have advanced beyond such barbarous acts. I strongly condemn this act of primitive wickedness and savagery. No society should ever tolerate the abuse, humiliation, and dehumanization of its citizens, least of all the vulnerable and women. What happened is not only a violation of law and morality, but also a direct assault on our collective humanity. The young girl could have been anyone's daughter, sister, or even mine. We must awaken our conscience and work collectively to build a society where justice is swift, compassion is active, and the dignity of every human being, especially the young and vulnerable, is inviolable. To do anything less is to endanger the very fabric of civilization. And then he goes ahead to say he calls on relevant authorities to ensure that those responsible are not only apprehended and prosecuted, but also made examples to deter future acts of savagery. More than that, let this tragedy compel us to institute stronger safeguards, policies, and communal values that protect the weak and restrain the powerful. Our humanity must always come first. Without it, we are nothing but a people adrift in cruelty. Let's see if we have other reactions as well from, other persons. Omoyole Showore speaks. He says, I strongly condemn the brutalization of a youth couple by the Governor Charles Soludo's Aguno Chamber Vigilante Group in Oba, Anambra State. This barbaric act is unacceptable and must not be swept under the carpet. Even when the individuals responsible for the violence have been identified and apprehended, they must also be brought to trial immediately through the impartial judicial process. Our official NYSC Youth Corps members are serving Nigeria. They must never be subjected to intimidation as was done to Rare. Okay. Humiliation of sexual violence is seen in the horrific Anambra vigilante video. Vigilante groups cannot be allowed to operate above the law or brutalize innocent citizens with impunity. Another one says, as Finding Solace says, now, wow, what kind of country is this? Every day I see reasons to side with Kemi. So stripping women of their clothes is now the new method of arresting them. That's really a question that everyone should ask. And I agree with you, Finding Solace. It's very pathetic.
Leave
it's
Kemi
sad.
out of this. Kemi is... Veronica_TON, this is wickedness in its highest form. How can a so-called vigilante group brutalize and strip a young lady naked in public? This is not security. It is pure barbarism and abuse of power. Most of our problems in this country are the people. Just imagine vigilante.
Again, all right, Vivian has said, I'm from Anambra State, and Peter Obi was the last good governor we had. During this tenure, we never had any insecurity issues. I'm forever grateful. Okay.
Well, to be honest, okay, Ruth, you've been dancing with your son on TikTok. Yeah, terrible things are going on in your state. Okay, Ruth, you do have but Ruth is all the way from, I think, Canada, if I'm right. Blood of Jesus, this one says, a whole corps member was treated like this by people who I am sure barely have WAEC. Facts.
Upon facts.
I need to scream that out. The governor, imagine the dregs of society that you employ to be security men, able-bodied men, assaulting a defenseless crew member.
It's just...
I spit... Oh, come on.
Terrible.
This is... I know how pained you are, psychings, but I mean, let's just be mindful of our...
Is it your spit?
No, it's a statement,
now?
but I mean, it's one statement I don't appreciate, by the way.
And then I also want to tell you that when you see a flag on a Twitter handle, sometimes it's aspirational.
I know.
It doesn't mean
I agree with you, my brother.
It's a dream to be a Canadian
it's a dream
someday.
to be Canada. But in all aspects...
I'm waiting for Olive to put Union Jack, UK flag, to join Kemi in the future, our sister.
Hopefully. but in all aspects, in clarity, what we saw, I mean, we have images of these individuals, and I think the police officer, the PPRO said that they've apprehended the team, they have the team, and so on and so forth.
It's telling me that these pictures are not
it's a bit blurry, but you know, okay, this, you should be able to identify that. And you know, the thing is, I'm certain. I mean, if you talk to the police officers, once you identify one,
of course,
you can identify the rest.
They operate in that urban area, so it's just who are the people on duty.
People's love of my life, and somebody's
their mode of dressing.
I
mean, it's just
that's another thing. And again, you see,
what's the difference between these people and criminals now?
When you give reins to individuals who are uncultured,
to dregs of
and
society,
you give them power, I think that we should use that word, to dregs of the society. This is what you get. And the funny thing we are starting to ignore as Nigerians and as a nation is that we think this is only happening to the lower level of society. It will get up, it will climb, because that's what impunity eventually does. It climbs up. Go and check other countries. If you don't make
examples of those people,
it will come up.
Sadly, this is going to
and that takes us to NCAA. Now they've come out and they've told the Minister of Aviation that, we know you're giving your verdict, but hold on, we want to carry out our own investigation. So they've invited Emerson. They've told her to come in for an investigative process. She's been called. Also, others have been called. And then they put the law. I think probably they watched the interview yesterday.
You must turn off your phone.
Going forward now, turn off your phones.
Nothing like flight
mode again. Nothing like airplane mode.
As long as you're in Nigerian airspace, please.
But once I leave the Nigerian airspace but to be honest, a number of times, like our interview yesterday highlighted, it's typically when you take off and you land.
Those are the two important,
you turn off your phone, but mid-flight you can use your phone. But let's not take it.
How many local flights have Wi-Fi?
No, they don't have Wi-Fi. Forget it. Maybe except you're flying private.
Exactly.
But just to wrap this up, to say that we'll continue to follow up with this. We're holding Anambra State government to account, holding the police in Anambra State to command, the PPRO of the Nigerian police. And to also just say that our heart goes out to...
And to the head of Agune Chamber in Anambra State.
And to say that our heart goes out to this young woman who unfortunately has been treated poorly, just to double check her name. to make sure that, she gets justice, whatever justice will look like for her. Justice might mean that they will get fines, they will be sanctioned, but I don't know what justice will ever feel like justice enough for how she was treated, degraded, dehumanized, stripped of her dignity, and posted on social media.
Terrible,
it's really sad.
terrible.
Okay, let's now move on to, I don't know if we have time for our next conversation.
Yeah, we can just touch on it briefly because it's a matter of public concern.
Yeah.
And if you've been an avid follower of social media in Nigeria, you'll be familiar with the statement, real estate company. I mean, not to make light of the situation.
I was thinking you wouldn't do it.
These are very
you tried, you pulled it
But you have to pull your hair back when
you have to,
you can't do it with
These are very serious allegations. I mean, Scott Iguma has been an advocate for many Nigerians that have bought land and properties from P1 Real Estate and they haven't received them. And the allegations is that they're selling receipts and they're not seeing
the landed properties.
The land properties or the land. And it's been a back and forth between Scott Iguma, the police, EFCC, and now the House of Reps has summoned all of them over this alleged fraud.
Now, bear in mind that Scott Iguma was arrested and detained in police for a number of days. And after his detention, when he was finally released from prison, he alleged again that he and his loved ones are being threatened by certain individuals. So now they're asking, with all these claims, the strong evidence that court seems to have, he has pulled together witnesses from a number of Nigerians, over 200 Nigerians that had sent to him receipts of how they, and petitions of how they had bought properties from P1 Real Estate Company and had never gotten to see their property. And now the House of Rep has summoned EFCC chairman to come and explain why this has not been investigated, why they have not yet invited P1 Real Estate Company.
Well, don't forget too that Scott had initially paid a visit to members of the House of Representatives. I think it was in Abuja some weeks back, where he had met with them, especially with the committee that deals on housing and so on. And I think that's a good step in the right direction. However, my concern with all these back and forth concerning what an individual has taken up to do is that we do have organizations that are supposed to, they are regulatory bodies that are supposed to be doing the job.
I mean, we spoke to the EFCC spokesperson.
That
said the file is on the table. So that brings to us another question of undue influence by the National Assembly. I mean, shouldn't they wait for the investigative process to finish to run?
You know why they will not wait? Because the EFCC is typically that law enforcement agency that once they've gotten into the arena, they want to announce. It's their MO typically to announce, oh, we arrested this person, we have invited this person.
Not follow through.
Do you understand? So it's typically their MO to announce their procedures. So what they're wondering, why haven't you announced this one?
You just mentioned only one. The FCC. I'm not even concerned about the FCC. I think the FCC,
ICPC,
I'm not even concerned about that as well. I'm talking about the Security Exchange Commission. That's the number one body that I'm worried about.
Because you're taking on
because by now, exactly, they ought to have seen when this young man was shouting and when he was having a lot of documents as proof, where people had written and stated receipts, proof, and so on. The SEC, though, did one thing only, which I would commend them for. They said, these are the names of organizations that have Ponzi scheme-like. You know, they're Ponzi scheme-like organizations. And when they mentioned it, guess who was listed there? P1 Real Estate Company was listed there. And at that point, I was thinking that is the time where EFCC need not wait. Swoop in immediately, straight to action. And guess what? You had one man who has done the job for you already.
They also need to investigate the way Scott was manhandled in police detention. And I trust him. He's a very vocal person, and he will listen.
He released a video, a voice. We've not heard anything from the police on that. You know, sometimes we just want to use this medium to speak to the Nigerian police as well. We appreciate you as the Nigerian police officers that you are. But we also want to use this medium to beg you that please do not erode public trust and confidence in the police. Because the way you do that is how you react to things that are happening within the society or within the organization in which you run.
I think I'm going to
if someone has done something like this, has gone ahead to release. What we expect from the police is possibly just follow up with a press release, a video,
or
and let's see you go into
acknowledge
action.
that, look, we have gaps in the system, we're working
Guess
on
what?
it and this. But
If the result ends up to be good and positive, who gets the accolades?
The police.
The police.
So when you say do not erode public trust, I think it's more of rebuild public trust.
Exactly, because that
I don't
trust
think
has
that
been
trust
eroded, yeah.
is there. Because almost in every situation when you hear this, the reaction of many Nigerians would be, it's one of those things, you know, we'll soon move on from it, they'll sweep it under the carpet.
But kudos to Scott Aguma for fighting the good fight and being the voice of so many people that would have given up and said, you know what, this is Nigeria, this sort of things happen. And kudos to also the members of the House of Representatives for taking this petition and this public interest case up. We look forward to hearing the last of it.
All right. But let's take a look at Scott Aguma speaking, and after that, we should be wrapping up Wake Up Conversations.
To the general public, the National House of Assembly, House of Representatives, has now summoned the EFCC as regards the 130 petitions that are submitted to them against P1. So the National House of Assembly, House of Representatives have summoned the EFCC chairman, Mr. Oluwala Kayode, for August 20th, Wednesday, August 20th, 2025. And that's the day after tomorrow. Now, this is the petition that was written against the EFCC by the House of Representatives. And I read, petition on the alleged collusion, negligence, and failure of the EFCC to investigate multiple fraud petitions against Property World Africa Network, P1, real estate company, while a whistleblower is criminally targeted and reprimanded. So this is the petition that the House of Rep submitted against EFCC. And these are their concerns. It says, our concern, number one, what is the status of the 130 plus petition submitted to the EFCC against P1? Number two, why has the EFCC not updated the public or taken visible steps towards investigation and prosecution? Number three, is there an undisclosed interest between EFCC officials and P1 representative that is obstructing justice? And number four, why has the whistleblower acted under civic duty been targeted and imprisoned while the alleged offenders remain unchecked? And then number five, why is the Nigerian police force acting on what appears to be a civil/commercial matter while ignoring the substance of the allegation? So this is the petition that was submitted to the House of Representatives against the EFCC. P1 has also been summoned as well. That's if they've not arrested him. So to the unintelligent Augustine, that's the way they find me. So on the 20th of August, we will all be at the National House of Assembly to explain to the House of Representatives on this matter. On Wednesday, the 20th of August, 2025. P1, you've also been summoned. So if they are yet to arrest you, then you must be there. May God say, the National House of Assembly, how you've defrauded Nigerians, ripped them of their money, ruined families, ruined lives, all for your greed.
The National Assembly Committee on Public Petitions for releasing that statement.
Today is the 20th of August?
Yes.
And
morning.
It's happening this morning. We hope to get Scott Aguma join us on the show tomorrow so we can get a follow-up as to how far this case has gone and what the deliberations are like in the House.
This is a litmus test, and I must say it here clearly. This is what we are going to know. And permit me to use the word, if Nigeria go better. This is the test. And let's watch. Because I'm going to say that when I'll say it again. If Nigeria go better, this is the litmus test. Because, yes. Because you have, I'm sure if they call out, if everybody who bought properties come out to court that day, the court will be filled up. And we're going to see if justice is for sale.
Or justice. I mean, it's really,
we have to get to this level.
And I understand Joe's concern, and it's very legitimate for making that statement that if things, because it's obvious. I mean, just look at the statement. Why is the police acting against, it's almost like the police is acting against justice. So, and then the EFCC, you have 120, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, no, 8, 9, 10. You have over 100 cases on one particular company and individual, and you are still dragging your feet on the investigation.
And SEC has also a government,
and that's why they're asking. Do you
has also said this is a Ponzi organization?
So in other words,
every proof.
Do you have any collaborations with EFCC and this P1 real estate people? What's going on? Is there a clash of
So that's a clarion call to the police, to the EFCC, and all the regulatory agencies involved in this matter. You should jump on the social media challenge that says, who dig this pit go fall inside. They have dug pit for you. You better not fall inside. The expectations are high because at the end of the day, they're not jokes. These are strong, grave allegations that impact or have impacted the quality of life of a number of Nigerians. So this definitely deserves a thorough investigation, and we expect a report in that regard. Any final thoughts? I'm thinking I should check on
final thoughts. We'll just wait when they get to the House of Reps. We'll wait to see when they come out what the results will be like. And like I think we've made our points known to everybody and to the public that our eyes are watching. So we're going to follow closely on the two stories we brought to you today. This P1 versus EFCC and Scotty Guma, and of course the Guna Chamber story as well.
Right.
Hopefully the governor would hold a state address.
Speaking about the Aguni Chamber story, we have a response on YouTube. Idris Onifade says, "This is barbaric. I'm ashamed for the police PRO saying it's not a new video." And he's comfortable to say that. It is sad that our police are handicapped to arrest the perpetrators of this crime. That's what Idris Onifade says on YouTube. Remember that you can be a part of the conversations on YouTube. Drop a chat in the chat box where we go live, and we are always live. So drop a chat regarding any of the stories and we'll take your reactions. Let's now share what the headlines this morning are on Breakfast Central. Our top stories this morning on Breakfast Central. We're looking at RMAFC proposes salary increment for President Tinubu and lawmakers. Imagine your president earning 1.5 million. Wow. Federal government places 7-year ban on new tertiary institutions, and we'll have education experts joining us for that. I'll be also bringing you updates ahead of New Central's Town Hall series scheduled to hold tomorrow in the Middle Belt. UNICEF warns of crisis in northeastern Nigeria. And the newspaper front pages, one of my favorite bits, where you get to be a part of the analysis by calling in the numbers on your screen. Stick around for all this. The Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission, RMAFC, is reportedly considering an upward review of salaries for political office holders. By its enabling act, it's charged with determining the remuneration of political office holders, including the president, vice president, governors, ministers under sections 84 and 124 of the Constitution.
When President Bola Ahmed Tinubu assumed reins in May 2023, plans were initiated to review the remuneration. However, the move was suspended in September of the same year due to economic challenges. Speaking at a press conference in the nation's capital, Abuja, on Monday, Mohammed Shehu, chairman of the RMAFC, said the salaries of political office holders are not in tune with current realities.
Well, in the words of the chairman of RMAFC, paying the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1.5 million naira a month with a population of over 200 million people was a joke to the country. But the timing couldn't be more controversial. With inflation at record highs, unemployment surging, and millions of Nigerians struggling to afford basic necessities, this proposal feels like a sponge to the gut.
Joining us this morning for this discussion is Public Affairs Analyst Nelson Ekujimi. Good morning and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good pleasure.
All right. Before we get into the conversation, let's share with you what Nigerian presidents have earned monthly so far. So you can take a look, and if our producers can display it. So we see here from 1999 to present. President tenure monthly basic salary, you can see the division there. So starting from President Olusegun Obasanjo from 1999 to 2007, 1,171,568 naira. Now this was based on the RMAFC structure introduced in early 2000s, monthly basic salary and consolidated allowances. Now move to President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, 2007 to 2010, same salary. And then to President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, 2010 to 2015, same salary. Still moving on from President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, we can see the next president, of course, President Muhammadu Buhari. Now it increased slightly to 1,250,000 naira monthly basic salary. And Buhari voluntarily cut his total salary by 50% in 2015. This will then bring it down to maybe shortly definitely under 750,000 naira. And now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu from 2023 to present is earning 1.5 million monthly basic salary and consolidated allowances. Now, they've asked for an increment of the president's salary, saying that you can't imagine that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be earning 1.5 million and that the number of ministers are earning under 1 million. These are the basic, consolidated allowances. But Nigerians, of course, do not believe these figures. You don't believe that the president is surviving on just 1.5 million. That aside, from an ethical standpoint, can leaders justify pay raises when over 130 million Nigerians live in multidimensionally poor societies?
Well, thank you very much. I think the mandate of the RMAFC is very, very clear. And its mandate is to review the salaries of public office holders. And when you are talking about the salaries and emoluments of public service holders, you talk about the president, the vice president, the governor, the deputy governor, commissioners, ministers. So if you are looking at the economic reality and in view of the mandate of that institution, the last time there was a salary review by that institution was in 2008, and the Constitution gives that institution the power to periodically review the salaries and emoluments of this public office holders. If the institution in its wisdom has discovered that there is need for a review in line with the mandate expressed in it by the Constitution, I think it's a step in the right direction. Don't forget, even under our law, the Nigerian workers have the right to have their salaries and what have you reviewed every 5 years. And then we have seen it being done under this administration. So if the institution is waking up its responsibility of reviewing the salary of the work of a public service, public office holder, then I think it's like keeping to one mandate, because the review could be upward and it could be low, it could be downward. But in this case, the RMAFC have said it is going to review it in line with present economic realities, and that is in tandem with its mandate. So I don't see anything wrong in what the RMAFC is going to do right now.
It's in tandem with its mandate, like you said, and we really can argue with them. But looking at the economic situation in the country right now and the timing, and also looking at the personality and person of Mr. President, who is a successful businessman, has done very well for himself in his private life, and looking at the optics this might bring at a time the country is battling debt and fiscal instability. Is the timing right, or should this have come later when, the WTO Director General said the economy is stabilized, when there's more, when the mood of the nation is more palatable, perhaps?
Well, the fact of the matter is that the Constitution did not specify what time the RMAFC should, carry out its function. It didn't the Constitution did not specify that if you look at when the economy is stable or not. The mandate of that institution is to review the salaries of public office holders. And I'm sure that review is not about the person occupying the office of the president. It's about the office. And when you are talking about the review of that salaries and emoluments, it is not only Mr. President, no matter how successful he is. There's the vice president, there are the governors, the deputy governors, ministers, commissioners, and what have you. So it is not about the person occupying the office. It is about what is, appropriate for that office. Whether the president is a trillionaire is irrelevant. You just, leave out the fact that former President Muhammadu Buhari, cut his own by 50%. That, okay, this is what I'm doing. I just want to take home 50% of. If Mr. President in his wisdom decides that, because right now Mr. President cannot stop, he doesn't have the constitutional powers to stop that institution from carrying out his, its core responsibility. It is not for you to say, okay, this is what I'm worth. Okay, this is what you have reviewed my salary to be, because that is not within my purview to review. You are the body entrusted with that responsibility under the law. Okay, I don't want to take any of this. Keep that money or whatever is due me. I want to forgo it in the interest of economic realities of what Nigerians are going through. All well and good. But for me, I am a person who believes in the rule of law. And if the law has stipulated this is the way to go, I won't allow emotions, sentiments, or blackmail to deter me from following the law, because it's the right thing to do at every point in time.
Okay, Mr. Kujibi, you've said it's the right thing to do. And we're very sure that, while we're trying to have this conversation, your name popped up for the reason that you followed very closely with this administration. And I'm sure that you've equally followed closely with looking at the reviews which we're discussing right now. But does it make any clear sense, of want of words, if I put it this way, that you do have the doctors who are seeking for a salary review? You also have other persons who are calling for a review in their salaries, talking about the teachers as well. I'm sure you are aware of the police officers as well. And these are just the three I'm going to mention. As a public affairs analyst, one who has been at the forefront to also highlight the key policies that are positive to Nigerians from this administration, don't you think that this is coming at a wrong time? That's one. And secondly, do you also think that if the presidency or the governors and so on, who also receive largesse in terms of they have extras to get cars, house accommodation, which the doctors and the police officers don't have, do you think they should at least hold on this and sort out these other ones before they review and go for theirs? Or you think it doesn't matter, the doctors should, wallow in pain while they review their salaries? Just to get your thoughts on this from a personal point of view.
One, I don't think this review is inappropriate. I think the mandate of the RMAFC must be executed in tandem with the provisions of the law. And as a human being, I believe strongly that a laborer deserves his wages. So if the doctor's salaries, the security agencies' salaries are under a template, and we feel that template is not appropriate enough, it is for us to advocate for a review to make it more appropriate and more suitable and make life livable for those involved. The security agencies, the personnel there, or the teachers, are not public office holders. They have their own structure. And those who have come up with that structure, you know what they were doing when they came up with those structure, and when they accepted to be a teacher, or to be a doctor, or to be a security personnel, you know what you were going into. So I don't believe one should be stopped for the other, because these are all human beings. These are people who have different responsibilities. So if a doctor's salary is on a scale that we Nigerians, and they have made us aware, and there is a body in charge of that responsibility to review their salaries as at when due, it is for us to join the clarion call and say, look, we have to improve their living conditions. You know, what are they aiming? Oh, we need to look at it in terms with a global best practices. But to say because somebody is a teacher or a doctor, and that we feel, because I've not seen a doctor come out to tell us that, what they are earning is below par. And as even as we speak, there are persons who are even earning far, far below that.
Sorry, we have doctors.
We have doctors.
Mr. Ekuchimi, if I may interrupt, did you say we don't have doctors who have said that what they are earning is below par?
I've not seen doctors come out to say that. If they have any issue, no, just a minute.
Okay.
If they have any issue with what they are earning, it is within their salary structure. I don't think it is below that. But what I'm saying is that if we feel, if the organization or the institution charged with reviewing their salaries, assesses it and feel that this is what should be done, the Nigerian Medical Association is there to interface with whatever organization is in charge of the salaries and emoluments of doctors. It is not for one man. It is not about one man coming out to strike. If it is about the organization, the Association of Doctors, coming out to say what you are earning is not at par with what our counterparts earn in other parts of the world, or we are overstretched, we need to do this and that. They know the appropriate authorities.
Okay, so we had the National Association. Mr. Ekushimi, can I give you a bit of context to that? We had the former first vice president of the National Association of Resident Doctors on this show when they had given a 21-day warning strike to the government, talking about the fact that there were so many unmet demands, one of which was remuneration. For the longest time, it has been a repeat pattern here to see doctors going on strike, resident doctors going on strike, and the main thing that they have gone on strike for is salaries and allowances. Now, we will go back to the St. Lucia incident when there was the possibility of exporting some of our medical professionals abroad to earn a certain sum. When the conversion was done, it reflected that those who were going to work in St. Lucia were going to earn more than the doctors that were here in Nigeria. That, again, elicited a lot of criticism from the medical field, with the Medical Association releasing a press statement condemning that action, saying it's undermining the doctors who have stayed back at home. Because at the end of the day, we keep seeing them. It feels like we are exporting our doctors, not voluntarily, of course, but because they're looking for greener pasture. So I do not think that it is fair for us to say that we haven't seen any doctor who has come out to they complain all the time. The doctors, the nurses, the midwives, they've all had strikes consistently, complaining, and yet nothing has been done about that. I just wanted to, put that out there.
Let me also put this back to you, that these same doctors or nurses or what have you in the medical profession, you just said it's unmet demand. So if there's unmet demand, it means there has been an agreement somewhere. It is not that they're asking for something new, that an agreement has been reached somewhere, and those demands were not met. So it is for those who have not responded appropriately to those demands that were agreed on. That should be true. So if you are comparing Nigeria to St. Lucia, I'm sure you know Nigeria is not St. Lucia, and the economic realities in St. Lucia cannot be the same in Nigeria. I remember at a point in time, some persons were comparing the salaries of an average worker in Nigeria to that of South Africa. And a lot of us came out and said, no, you can't do this comparison because the economic realities in South Africa is not the same. You know how much it costs to rent a room in South Africa? What you use to rent a room in South Africa, you use times 100 of it to rent a room. What you cost you to rent a room in Nigeria, you use times 100% of it to get a room in South Africa. So the economic realities are not the same. But what we are saying is that every institution, every profession has its own template. And if that template has not been reviewed, it is for us to call on the practitioners there to come to a round table and ensure that justice is done to everybody. It is not for us to say because a footballer, for example, the Falcons and the V-Tigers got some largesse from the federal government, and somebody now say, oh, what about the policemen? What about the night security man, the brigade in our local environment? They should also know they are doing different jobs, and they are templates for their job, for their job as well as for their reward system. So it is not for you to take one reward system and use it as a template for another profession or sector of the economy. Everybody lives on his own live. So if you feel the review of the president, the public office holders, it will not be done, then you are telling the RMAFC, to violate its law, which will amount to a criminal act. And if we are a country,
Mr. Kujimi, you just said something down, that if we're telling the RMAFC not to review the salaries of the lawmakers a criminal act. So who makes it a criminal act when the government has also failed to review the salaries of the Nigerian medical practitioners, which ought to have been reviewed since a long time ago, many years ago? Who should be held responsible? And then again, I want to ask you, what is the priority? What should be the priority of the government? Is it to review the salaries of lawmakers while telling Nigerians to tighten their belt, or to review the salaries of those who ensure that lives and properties are indeed safe and, of course, bearable? Or which are you putting first?
The priority of government is the safety and, the safety and welfare of the people. But in doing that, there are institutions of state that have been established to carry out specific functions. So if these institutions of state are living up to the billing, I think they should be commended. And if you have seen any institution of state abdicating its responsibility, then that can be condemned. I remember vividly well under former President Muhammadu Buhari, when the review of salaries, took about a year or plus, far beyond what it should be, when it should be done. A lot of us came out and said, no, under the law says every 5 years. And this administration has even said it's going to do it every 3 years. So we must hold them to their words. We must hold them to, obeying the tenets of the Constitution. So I would say because the public office holders are the one now, in the public view with regards to the review of their salaries and emoluments and what have you, then I'll say, oh, they don't deserve it. No, absolutely not. I told you earlier on when we started this program that a laborer deserves his wages. If the RMAFC has been set up to review the salaries, emoluments of workers, it builds on it to carry out that responsibility. Because not every public office holder is a millionaire or a billionaire. And again, when they are signed into that office, there is an institution responsible for reviewing their salaries and emoluments. And we must allow that institution to do its job. If there are other institutions elsewhere, starting with the responsibility of reviewing the salaries, emoluments of other workers in other sectors of the economy, and they have not done that, it is for us to try and make them wake up and do the needful.
Now, Mr. Kujimi, are you worried that this revised salaries could have an effect on the cost of governance in Nigeria because the Nigerian 2025 budget is already stretched and all price assumptions have exceeded market realities? The IMF is also suggesting that we need a budget recalibration and that the government should also do expanded cash transfers to the most vulnerable of Nigerians. So are we in a situation to absorb this increase?
Well, the RMAFC has told you, or has told Nigerians, that this review will be done in tandem with economic reality. And I'm very sure the RMAFC will not just sit down in its office. I'm sure there are experts from various sectors of the economy that will be assessed to arrive at a template. And talking about this review, we don't even know what is the quantum or the percentage of the review. And for me, it's just like when I see someone say, oh, the cost of governance. I can tell you for free, a lot of us that come out to mark cost of governance, we don't even have the facts. We are speaking from a position of assumption. Because when you talk about somebody who has employed, or a governor, for example, who has employed about 100 special assistants, and some persons are complaining, my answer to such persons is that, look, by employing 100 of our people as special assistants or what have you, he has helped us take those 100 out of the labor market. He has helped us take those 100, he has helped us make those 100 to be responsible to a family, to some friends, to give us stipends. So we should not look at it from the point of view because even when we are talking about the cost of governance, those Nigerians that have been employed, don't they deserve the right to give? Then you're talking about the IMF telling us to recalibrate our budget. Yes, the IMF can offer that advice, but you can be sure that Nigeria is a sovereign country. We will take that advice based and look at it based on the existing socioeconomic realities. For example, it could be because of the fact that the budget that we made in 2015, maybe in January, that we have not been able to meet up with our major cash cow. That is the crude oil. You remember that the NNPCL has just told us that for the first time, I think it was last month, that we were able to meet up with our OPEC quota and even exceeded it, producing about 1.7 million barrels per day. As we speak,
all right.
They are trying to show up production. So if you have based your budget on an expected revenue, and you have not met that revenue target, definitely you also you don't even need someone to tell you that, look, you have to cut your food according to your plot. That you have expected to produce maybe 1.7 million barrels, and you have been producing 1.5 million barrels. Definitely there will be a shortfall with regard to meeting your expenditure, because it is revenue and other sources that you take care of the expenditure.
I'd like to interject
comes out and tell you to recalibrate. That is the reality of ground. If your earnings is below your...
Mr. Ekejumi, we have to go now. Unfortunately, we have to interject because we have to go now, Mr. Ekejumi. But we thank you for joining us. We'll continue to follow up with the updates regarding this and see what the next steps are. But thank you for your time with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we have to go on a very quick break now. We'll come back and continue the conversations this morning on Breakfast Central. But let's share with you what's coming up next. The federal government places 7-year ban on new tertiary institutions, and we'll be looking at this and still bringing you updates ahead of new Central's Town Hall series scheduled to hold tomorrow in the Middle Belt. Court grants witnesses of our church massacre protection. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central from that very short break. Now, the federal government has announced a 7-year moratorium on the expansion and accreditation of new universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education. That means no new institution, no new programs, no new licenses until 2032.
That's right. Nigeria currently has over 170 universities, that is federal, state, and private. We have 152 colleges of education, 138 polytechnics, yet over 1.7 million candidates sit for UTME annually, and only about 600,000 get admitted, and that's a gap of over 1 million students every year.
Well, with this moratorium, the gap could indeed widen. The government says the focus is on improving infrastructure, faculty quality, and funding for existing institutions. But is that realistic without expanding capacity indeed? Well, this is a conversation we're going to have, and we do have here with us, joining us, one in the studio, and of course, another guest joining us via video conference. We have educational consultant and President Issa School of Education, Dr. Joy Issa joins us video conference. And of course, we do have the team lead and one of our, favorites who also joins us here, EIC Dev reporting, Mr. Majid Alabi, also live in the studio. Mr. Majid has clearly mentioned to us that sometimes when we invite him to join us in the studio, it's only when there's bad stories, But now, Mr. Majid, we do have a story that can define how well we should go. And we must also mention to our viewers that feel free to drop your comments or two on Nigeria's educational sector. It's one way we look to highlight the positives and, of course, the negatives, and why we think this is a conversation that must be had, because it will indeed shape in the future of every single child out there, and even adults as well. So thank you so much, Dr. Issa, for being here, and thank you as well for being here as well.
Thank you. I think maybe the question we should ask, you said Joe did say that Mr. Majid Alabi always says we invite him when there's bad news. Is this bad news?
So
consider this bad news or good news? How do you interpret this?
Yeah, with mixed feeling. Thank you so much. I think, let me first correct one impression that we have 170-something universities in Nigeria. We have close to 300 universities, both public and private universities in Nigeria. states, federal, and private. We can't get the exact figure now.
Yeah.
Because just a few days ago, additional 9 added to the list. So we have close to 300 universities in Nigeria. But be that as it may, you still realize the fact that is this good news or bad news? In fact, when they said 7 years, I would have said it should just be, the moratorium should be for 20, 30 years, because we have had more than enough. People talk about capacity, and they talk about, you'll be surprised if I tell you that there are universities in Nigeria that no students subscribe to at all. Yes. So it's not about whether we have the capacity, whether we are going to expand.
And they have an NUC license.
Yeah, definitely. There are even public institutions. And I'm going to ask you just one simple question. If there is a university in Zamfara State or in somewhere in Bauchi, how many of your students will you allow? How many of your children will you allow to go to that kind of distance, considering the insecurity, the challenges? You see, LASU is having over 70,000 enrollment, applicants as the highest most subscribed university this year. Is it because do you think people like LASU? They don't. It's because they feel that they are safer here, that it is safe to at least remain in the center.
It's not because it's Harvard.
No. It is not because of the standard. It's not because of the quality. It's because people want. We have candidates who we advise. Okay, go to parents, reach out to us. Okay, go to so. Even as much as they like some private universities, they are still afraid. And I'm going to give an example of Landmark University, which focuses on agriculture. It's a private university. It's owned by the same owner of Covenant University. And it's in Omaro, in Kwara State. But parents will say, can I? Because they are afraid of insecurity. They are afraid of so many factors. So the problem is that at what stage are we stopping this? Is it at the stage when the Minister of Education already created a tertiary institution in Ekpe, where he comes from? Is it at the stage where the Minister of what do I call it, Blue Economy as a university in Iragbidi, where it comes from? Is it at the stage where the senator representing Ogun West already has a university?
But those ones aren't the private universities.
They are public universities, for God's sake. And they were established by this same administration. Do you know how many institutions established by this same administration? Within the last 2 years, we have close to 20. Within a space of two years. Where do we do that? So when we are coming at the time now to say, we are stopping for 7 years, stopping what?
So you suggest we should stop for more than 7 years?
In fact, if we are going to stop, for the next 50 years, is it about quantity? We are talking about quality. Which institutions in the world do you think they just wake up? Go and check the requirement for establishing new universities in South Africa. Just South Africa there. The universities must align with national priorities. You have to go through layers. There must be research to show where do we need these individuals, what we want to produce. That's the challenge. But we just wake up one day in Nigeria and the bills go to the National Assembly. In fact, NUC, that is a regulatory body, is unaware that universities are going to be established.
Are you sure about that?
If I don't, have I ever come here to tell you what is not? I speak with authorities every day. We relate every day. In fact, we are at the point of getting statistics of enrollment of some of these institutions. There are even universities, if they want to be serious, there are universities already created. They don't have any candidate for now. A University of Science and Technology, University of Earth Sciences was just created the other day. They just announced a new vice chancellor, who is the CMD, who happens to be the CMD of Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital. And he has just been appointed. How many candidates do they even have students? They appointed registrar, they appointed this, they appointed that. Just about less than 2 weeks ago. Ask me, which candidates do they have there to go to those institutions? Okay,
let's now move to Dr. Joy Issa and bring her into the conversation. Dr. Issa, you've heard Mr. Mojeed Alabi's statement regarding this and how he's very displeased. I'll ask you, do you share the same sentiments or you have a different standpoint?
Well, my standpoint is slightly different just because if we look at the number of children applying to universities, we don't seem to have enough schools for the number of children applying to those positions. However, I agree with his point that we should pay attention to quality and not just quantity. So why will I send my children to the Northeast when there's so many challenges with insecurity? Why won't I keep them in LASU if I go back to the university he mentioned? And then LASU becomes oversubscribed. Having said that, what are we doing about quality assurance in LASU and in any of those other universities? So personally, I think the ban is a welcome development if we are diverting the funding that should go to the new universities to those existing organizations, if the regulatory bodies wake up and do due diligence on every single course in every single department in every single university. It's not enough for our children to go to universities and then the employers are saying, we can't employ these people that you are graduating. They do not have enough literacy, numeracy, digital competency skills to fit into our job market. And so we have to retrain them. Can we now say, okay, during this period of hiatus or this pause, let us pay attention to quality assurance of the lecturers, of the course content in every department. That will now make this a welcome development. But truly, we don't have enough schools for the number of children we have in our nation. If your nation is about, if about 49% of your population is under 18, then we have up to 70% of Nigerians under 35. We need lots of schools, right? So what are we going to do in this gap? How are we going to train the children that come out of our schools? Can we set up vocational centers where, okay, I come out of secondary school, I don't have my 5 credits, I didn't pass maths and English, can I go to a vocational center instead? And in that center, my deficit in terms of numeracy, literacy skills can be remediated, and then I can earn money. So yes, I become literate, I become more numerate, I have digital competencies, then I learn the core skill, the hard skill, in any of these centers, so that I can become an independent adult. At the end of the day, we want responsible citizens in our nation. That is the bottom line. At the end of the day, we want responsible citizens in our nations. So tertiary education is important, yes. I think the gap is a very welcome development. Again, if the regulators pay attention to quality assurance during this period. So we don't have these pop-up universities that just show up I'm sorry to say, as money laundering schemes, and you don't have core technical competencies in the different departments. Why can't these faculty heads, VCs, why can't you partner with the private sector and bring those industry experts as guest faculty? I was guest faculty for a university in China the other day who wanted contribution to it was an education department, yes, and they wanted contribution from a woman's standpoint, looking at gender balance in terms of educational leadership. That should be happening regularly, because we're Nigerians, there are too many industry experts that can support with quality assurance, quality control at the end of the day. So for me, I think this break is welcome if the regulators do what they should do to pay attention to standardization.
Thank you, Dr. Joy Issa. I'd like to come back to Mr. Alabi in the studio. Let's talk about access versus quality. She raised a very important point about the numbers. With over 1.7 million UTME candidates each year and only about 600,000 getting admission, does this moratorium risk deepening Nigeria's access crisis, even as government insists this is about improvement? So we have these numbers, but sheer numbers of universities, but they're not absorbing all the 1.7 million candidates. What will now happen when this moratorium kicks in?
Yeah, so the question we should ask ourselves is, when we were creating these universities, how did they help to solve the problem of capacity? As far back as 2012, I did a piece. I think I was with National Mirror then, and it ranked, made me to qualify as the Educational Reporter of the Year for Nigeria Media Merit Award. What did I write about? When a new Vice Chancellor came on board at the Obafemi Awolowo University then, we set an agenda. And what did we do? If you go to most of these institutions that have been created, the question you should ask is, what capacity do they have? The existing institutions have more than enough capacity. But when I come here, I discuss politics of education in Nigeria. Everybody wants to have constituency projects going to his or her home constituency. And the next thing they think of is a university. When I said it the other time that NUC, the regulatory body for university, doesn't even know when universities are created. And the last time when we had a director on our program, what did he tell us? Look, we don't know when this institutions...
Sorry to butt in. NUC gives the license. Who approves the creation of these universities? And NUC can also say, look, looking at our quality assurance sheet, you don't meet these regulations, we're not going to grant you a license.
That is the problem, that we don't have institutions in Nigeria, we have individuals. When authorities take positions, bills go to the National Assembly. They only hear that a senator has already sponsored a bill seeking establishment of a university. Do you know of any public hearing? Do they reach out to NUC? No. They don't. The last time, so what they do is that after they have created, it is FEC, Federal Executive Council, where decisions about creation of universities are made.
Just like this.
The only one that goes to the private, to NUC, they are the private universities. You will see a senator representing your constituency, he just goes there with a bill. And because he has played his own politics, so his bill comes up, they discuss it, they approve. They take it to FEC and they walk around behind the scene and they tell the president, please, this bill is from so. We have a favor to get from him. Then they stamp it. Now the challenge is this. Go and check those mushroom institutions that are created. At the end of the day, they can only admit about 1,000 candidates out of 1.7 million. But you have universities that are already existing that can accommodate as much as 50,000 more candidates if we actually improve them in terms of infrastructure. And I'm going to give an example. ABU is one of the biggest universities in Africa in terms of land space. Go to Unilorin has about 16,000 acres of land. Go to OAU, 13,000. Now, all this infrastructure, when OAU was created, there was supposed to be helipad within the university. When you are coming from abroad, you just go in straight. You see those infrastructure. You don't need another new vice chancellor. You don't need another new registrar. You don't need to build new infrastructure. It's just to expand the existing one. You are going to have more than 40,000 candidates to be absorbed into those institutions. But the problem is, you go to one abandoned secondary school in one village. You establish a university. What are you going to have?
It says they are legacy.
Go to Federal University or Ekiti. What infrastructure do they have up to today? They don't have the number, you understand? And it is even oversubscribed. Because people say, okay, there is a kind of, at least, little peace here. So when you have peace in that kind of environment, people say, okay, let's go there. And the students they are subjected to some kind of challenges. They live in private facilities. Most of those people who went to public institutions, they were accommodated on campus. That is what we call university environment. Universities are meant to be a place like a home. You can be on some campuses, ABU, OAU, you can be there for more than a year without going out for anything.
It's a community.
It's a community. But today, most of these institutions that are built, they come without hostel, they come without infrastructure, no classroom. Last week that people were talking, they had to stop some programs recently when they realized that students were more than even what any school can accommodate. They had to, in fact, they introduced the Stream 2. They call it Stream 2. So that, because when they realized that they had more than enough for the first, and they also needed money, they had to create Stream 2. What the Stream 1 will be paying in terms of fee is lower than what the Stream 2 will be paying. And that is what we are saying, that it is because we are not sincere. In Nepe, they started one federal medical center. It will have a school of nursing. We are not saying don't create. What we are saying is that the existing ones, so when Doctor was speaking the other time that we don't have enough to accommodate our candidate, it is not by creating new ones. When you have new innovations coming up, universities are not by the landmass, not by the infrastructure again. It's about technology. They are not just by physical infrastructure, I meant, by technology. But you don't need to be, okay, a vice chancellor that you appointed for one university in Nudufu and Likwe is also going to be handing the same money with another university vice chancellor in the University of Lagos. It's going to be handling the same thing, the registrar, whatever. So it is just jobs for guys and supporting my community. But what we are going to get at the end of the day, as we are getting now, is that we are not going to be having students. We are going to be having crooks. Because, yes, and that's why you see most of the communities where we have these students, they have become hideout for criminals.
And cultism.
Cultism. And that's why we are saying that those ones that are saying, let's stop it now, it is because they have satisfied their own constituencies. When others come on board, they will tell you that what has happened to my own constituency, and that's the problem with the politics of education in the country. Everybody wants to just build a system.
Want a university in their village.
Let me even ask you this question. Where are the lecturers to even teach in these institutions that they're creating?
That's one of the questions I wanted to ask, because the schools that are being created, let me go to Doctor. Do we have enough lecturers to cater to the administration, education, and so on and so forth? Recently, we did see NASU and SANU go on strike and mention that, listen, we need to look into our remuneration, payments, and so on and so forth. And my question to you is, do we have enough lecturers? Secondly, the educational sector, is it really a space used for either laundering, or you think, just share with us what you really know about all of this?
So in recent years, we've seen the exodus of skilled practitioners, right, abroad, in the medical sector, in so many sectors. We see, people just, should I say, well, it's an exodus, really, traveling, right? And there's a gap. That is the simple truth. If we cannot graduate competent, skilled practitioners, who's going to now progress in the academia to become the professors, associate professors, etc., when the people who are more skilled are traveling abroad? Because there are not enough lecturers anywhere in the world. Okay, there's a dearth of teachers, and countries abroad keep looking to Africa to harvest skilled labor. So I mentioned earlier that there needs to be PPP, public-private partnership. Universities, academic practitioners, yes, you have the baseline skills, but partner with industry experts that can come and contribute as guest faculty. So for me, lecturers are not necessarily the core issue. My colleague here said many important things. Number one, infrastructure is not enough, it's inadequate. And so the universities that are good are overcrowded. You don't have enough hostels, you don't have enough faculty, you just don't have enough infrastructure. And so in fact, some of them have established so many satellite campuses all around the country. You see UNILAG satellites, you see ABU satellite campuses, you see distant learning programs, all in an attempt to accommodate the crowds that they receive. This, I would say, is where new universities would have remediated, right? To say, okay, because you're a new university, you can accommodate new people. Unfortunately, like you said, I have some money, I'm a senator, I'm a politician, or I'm a big shot somewhere. I feel like I want to give back. I convert an abandoned secondary school into a university. Who's doing the quality control effectively? NUC gives a license. However, monitoring. Those of us in academia understand what's going on. There is not enough monitoring and evaluation controls, not enough regulation. That is the simple truth. And so where we have this challenge is, okay, existing universities are overcrowded, but new universities are not doing enough. I have to say, though, that when you speak about change, the newer universities are more open to adapting AI technology than permit the word, dinosaurs, who just want to do the same thing over and over again. Let me narrow it down to the education sector. The way we teach teachers to teach is the same way we have been teaching teachers to teach since the proverbial 1945 that I like to say. What are we doing about upgrading the curriculum in those universities? You have lecturers who use the same handouts that they use for maybe my father, who's in his 70s, and my children will go to universities, and the lecturer still wants to, or the person who's taken over still wants to use those same handouts and that same information. We have a serious problem. Our education system is not evolving to meet the current needs of the people. So where you say no more universities, are we going to force the existing universities to evolve? Are we going to address the bottlenecks? What are we going to do differently to make sure that the needs are met adequately? So this is where the slight challenge comes to say, right, if we're not opening up new universities, then please can we fix the existing ones? Can faculty be properly remunerated so that they're not looking for side hustle, left hustle, right hustle, and they're actually paying attention to research and development so that gaps in our industries are mitigated, which is why we have universities. Who's doing the research for new medication? Who's doing the research for new agricultural produce? I met a professor last weekend who was talking about his research. He got a grant, an overseas grant, to look at, to explore feed, how to change or adapt the feed for birds, because right now from birth to the shops, as they say, it has dropped from 12 weeks to 8 weeks. Now they're at 6 weeks. And I thought, what? You mean the chicken we are eating?
It's not matured.
Was from 0 to 6 weeks and mature, my goodness. But there's research going on. Who's doing that in other universities? That is the real problem.
All right. We've dwelt a lot on the universities today, but before you get to university, you have to pass through the secondary education. So now let's come back to secondary education. And there are challenges. We've talked about that on this show several times. Challenges with the quality of teachers, the training that they get. I don't even know right now if, I'm not informed about what the latest qualification for you to be a teacher in a secondary school is. Growing up, I know in primary schools as well, you had to have gotten your NCE, TC2. Do we still have those, or are we still using NYC core members to teach in a number of these schools? But we'll talk about the quality of teachers. Now let's talk about computer-based assessment, because that's been in the news in the most recent times. And I'll start with you, Dr. Issa, before I come back to Mr. Mojeed Alabi. WAEC and NECO are expected to be computer-based exams by next year. But look at what happened. WAEC couldn't even begin by uploading 2025 WAEC results without any glitches. We saw that even with JAM and the challenges with it being CBT. What are your thoughts about the possibility of us having a smooth, seamless CBT assessment for WAEC and NECO by 2026? And are we ready for that?
The real question is, are we ready? Unfortunately, we have to evolve. We have to move forward. So we cannot continue to use an antiquated system in the 21st century. This is why there's a proliferation of private schools, because the public school system is not evolving as fast. So when was the last time you wrote an exam paper-based for any interview, job interview? Who writes pen and paper? It's a great skill to have, but if you look at testing, psychometric testing, a lot of these things, they're computer-based. So yes, we need to evolve, but it starts from the curriculum. How are we teaching these children to use computers in their learning? It's not just about using a computer in an exam. How are you using the computer in your learning? Are you using it for research in your classroom? Are you using the computer to answer questions? Are you submitting assignments via the computer? Is your teacher marking and giving you feedback by the computer? That is the problem. So you come at the end and you introduce, CBT. Meanwhile, a lot of those children have not touched a computer. So they don't know that shift or return key, goes down, or the enter key. And they're confused. I feel pained, right? Because we're trying to change the end product without dealing with the process. If the process is faulty, of course the end will be faulty. So you want to change an entire assessment strategy or system, and you do not integrate it from the beginning. You wait till the end. Of course it is bound to fail. So right now, what WAEC needs to do, what our secondary schools need to do, is to immediately, especially from September, as school starts next month, to introduce computer-based testing from day one. Everyone should do their baseline assessments using computers. Now that raises the problem. Where are the computers in the school? Where's the power? Solar power, whatever power. Where's that? So we go back to lack of infrastructure that will end up leading to children not performing optimally. We have to evolve, we have to move forward. So resources need to be channeled, need to be redirected. And the last thing I want to say is, I wonder if the government could do the same thing in the secondary schools. To say, right, no more opening new secondary schools or primary schools. Let us fix the existing ones. I'm sure my colleague here will agree that those mushroom schools will be forced to partner with people down the road and will be forced to expand and will be forced to do things better. If we do the same thing to secondary schools, that is what I advocate for. The same thing, put a block.
Thank you, Dr. Joy Issa. So I'll just pick up from where Dr. Issa left off, Mr. Majid Alabi. Would you recommend moratorium for secondary schools and to strengthen the secondary school systems we have in Nigeria, and also funding? The government says its focus is on strengthening existing schools and funding, but we know that Nigeria's education budget really crosses the 8% of our national budget, far below UNESCO's recommended 15 to 20%. So how do we realistically transform funding for these institutions, and also the existing government secondary schools, make them fit for purpose, produce graduates that can compete in the 21st century job market, and not just churning out numbers, but quality?
Yeah, thank you very much. We need to first clear something. Secondary education is basically, apart from the 104 unity schools that are controlled by the federal government, the bulk of secondary schools in Nigeria are controlled by the state government. And so if we talk about education budget, I think for the federal level, our focus is usually on the federal government level. If we go to the different states, the states are in control of the secondary education. And it's because the government failed at the different states. That was what gave birth to Universal Basic Education Commission. But you look at, we have done a couple of stories that exposed fraud, even in the utilization of the fund provided by UBEC. The challenge that we have in this country is not, and that's why when people say, this person has failed, this person has also failed. Yes, people will continue to fail because the challenge that we cope with in Nigeria is far, far beyond what people can see from outside. UK examination bodies will not conduct the same exam for the number of candidates that we conduct for in Nigeria. When you look at the geographical location, you look at demographics, you look at everything, you realize that we have more troubles here. And the kind of the challenge that they face in terms of syndicates who are planning to also truncate the system, you don't find them out there. Over there, everybody understands that the system has actually started from the beginning. And that's what I said the last time I was there. When you look at it, sometimes we like to jump, place the cat before the horse. You realize that the kind of the system that we have, we want to actually set exams even before infrastructure. When Rauf Aregbesola introduced Okwenmo as a governor in around 2012 or thereabouts, some of us said that it will fail because even the classrooms that are necessary, where chairs are meant to be for pupils to sit down, they are not there. So you can't. And Nigerians, like I always say, they are tech savvy. Whether they have seen it or not, once they have opportunity to check it one time like that, then they can change the configuration, change everything for you. So when we told them that they would be downloading items into the tabs, they thought we were joking. They eventually became tools for them to watch porn. And that's the problem that we have in our system. It is about time for the government to actually realize the fact that it is not enough to make policy at the center. We have to also factor other stakeholders to come into the system. How much of the students are actually catered for by public institutions, by public secondary schools? The bulk of the students are also catered for by these private institutions, private schools. And these private schools, who control them? How do you, in an ID system, there are rules, there are conditions that you must meet before you start school. How many of those rules are actually followed? Go and check the schools. In fact, Each classroom, there is supposed to be, there are number of doors that you should have, where fire extinguisher should be, the number of doors that should enter your school, the kind of the space you should have, how many of those schools have the space. And people will take their children there, because when you talk about access, it is for me and you to be able to come out, especially for kids. I lead a body which is called Rich Network. Rich Network is a body, I co-lead this organization with an Indian lady. It's a forum of journalists where we work on early childhood care development. And you realize it's with an alliance, a body of different funders who focus on early childhood care. And what do we realize is the fact that a whole lot of us, we forget the fact that there are certain global conditions to be met before you can set up certain institutions. But here, everybody just wakes up. You set up one. When you say WAEC fails, NECO fails, JAM fails, they will continue to fail, because just like Dr. just said, Dr. Issa said, you look at what are the requirements to even take these exams? What are the requirements to even set this kind of standard? What are the standards to be set? You realize the fact that they will tell you in Nigeria that we have ranking tests, and we have the one conducted by WAEC is called achievement test. It's not ranking test. And the reason you cannot use you can't rely entirely on CBT is very clear. For one exam, you have about 3. You have practical. How do you engage in terms of practical using somebody that must be able to titrate, somebody who must go to laboratory? These things are meant to be seen. They are not just meant to be observed. They are not meant to just use computer to achieve. So there is a practical biology. There is practical physics. There is in English language, you are meant to do oral. Oral English is not something that you just sit down somewhere and just say, the ID system, you could recollect in those days. Yes, there is technology. Do we have this infrastructure in place? And that's the question we are asking the minister. Yes, because the minister is coming from an environment where everything has been automated, right from the primary basic level. He's a Nigerian American, so he's coming from America. But when you go to Inyaforogi, when you go to that village I've been to a lot of parts of this country. I've been to Northeast, I've been to North Central, I've been to Northwest, I've been to Southwest, even in Southwest here, that you say, oh, we are elevated. Go to those remote places. Go to some part of Yewa here in Ogun State. You will understand that we have a very long way to go. There is a need for us to look at what steps are we going to take to first put the system, to first put the infrastructure in place and teach people, even the teachers that we are recruiting. Who is that person that is taking up teaching today?
I mean, in the East, we heard that the Southeast governor at some point had to recruit some persons just
from
to fill
different
up
parts of the country.
from different parts, from parastatals, just to fill up the.
Go and check most of even the public or private schools. To get accreditation for WAEC, whatever, they rely on core members. That is why when people say scrap it, I just laugh. If you know what gap they fill in terms of teaching in schools, and these are people who are not even taught well themselves. Go and check the people who opt for. I've done the research before. You look at the number of students who opt to study education in Nigerian schools, Nigerian tertiary institutions. The number, they are the dregs. Those who scored low.
Yeah.
Every day, even yesterday, they sent candidates to me. And the next thing they tell you is that to go to College of Education, the people who score about 170. And I advise
and
the
these
person,
are meant to be people imparting knowledge, teachers.
So your teacher to teach lawyers, to teach engineers, to teach medical doctors, they are the poorest of the poor. They are the poor of the poorest.
It's quite unfortunate.
So nobody wants to. And it also talks about the reward system that I always emphasize. Today they are talking, as I heard you, today we are talking about reviewing the salaries and wages of the politicians, of political office holders.
Yeah, we just had
But we are talking about a situation whereby just a single review of the 2009 ASU federal government agreement, the government has failed to do that. The next thing that they are doing is that they are giving them option of loan, that they can take loan up to 10 million. When you are owing me,
Yeah.
You want me to take loan? You have not paid me my worth, and you are suggesting loan. Sign the 2009 agreement and see whether you are going to have strike in this country, and see whether lecturers are not going to, whether Nigerians are not going to be coming back to this country. You think the people who traveled just because they are looking for greener pasture, you think it's also greener pasture, it's also it's green over there? Nobody want to leave this system where you have your family, where if you are enjoying, if you realize that there is a kind of a system that is in place that guarantees a better future for you. When you signed that 2009 agreement, as you just finished their NEC meeting yesterday, is it yesterday? They had a NEC meeting in Sokoto.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, Tuesday.
If we are not careful, I don't know what we are going to expect. Their resolution is already, they are passing their resolution. You know, ASU operates like a very secret society. They don't make it happen, and they want to shock the nation. And I'm afraid, because you can't ask me to come and be taking loan
10 million.
when you are owing me and you have refused to sign normal wages for me. Who does that? So how can minister prioritize loan when in actual fact you have a pathway already agreed to? Do you know how many times they have signed, they have reviewed this agreement? Many times. They started this agreement as far as
the same with the doctors, the nurses.
The doctors. I mean, that's why our first guest joined us. So
it's a major challenge.
That's why we asked the first guest who joined us if he really understands what's happening in the country, but it seems he doesn't, by the way. Anyway, just to wrap things up, because we're almost out of time, Dr. Issa, we have just less than 2 minutes. Can you share your thoughts on the way forward? My question to you finally, I mean, I don't know about my colleagues, but because we have 2 minutes, would be, since we're looking at a security summit from the National Assembly, we're also looking at the youth confab. Don't you think that the government should also look at an educational confab or summit?
Absolutely. The worry is that we'll have a summit, we'll have lots of conversations, and then there'll be no action. We have a challenge with policy implementation in this country. And I think the regulators, Office of Quality Assurance for Secondary Schools, NCCE and NUC need to wake up and do what they should be doing to ensure that our existing organizations are implementing policy, are following procedures as agreed. That is the fundamental issue. So really, my advocacy is, look, guys, let's wake up and really do what we need to do and stop having these conferences and all, and then we come up with symposia and come up with, white papers, and, they get buried in the sand.
I absolutely agree with you. Talk is cheap, like they say. What we need is action and implementation. I'd like to say a very big thank you to you, Dr. Joy Issa, for joining us in this very important conversation this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
much. And maybe we have Mr. Labi in 30 seconds. If you have any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. We'll keep speaking. When I keep complaining and people said, look, we cannot keep complaining. I'm tired of going to the show and be speaking. And they said, no, you think it is not working. Who told you that the new moratorium is not as a result of the work, of the talks that we keep saying, that we keep coming here to speak about? So I will encourage you, and I thank you very much for providing the platform for us to actually share what we have observed, what we have seen, and what we hear, because we're in the middle. We speak to the authorities, and we also speak to the recipient of the policies. And we feel that what we have been able to do, as much as we continue to speak, when a blacksmith continues to hit the thing, he knows what he wants. We will keep speaking, so we cannot stop speaking.
Mr. Mojid Alabi, thank you for joining us. Dr. Joy Issa, thank you for joining us as well, and for constantly speaking about the ills in the education sector, as well as applauding when there has been progress. We look forward to seeing feedback taken from a number of the points that you both have made today, and so we can see an advancement in Nigeria's education sector. We're now going to break in. When we come back, we'll continue with the conversations. This time, we'll be taking you to the Middle Belt, looking at the state of insecurity and bringing you updates on Nigeria's New Central's Town Hall series. Please stay with us.
Tomorrow, Thursday, 21st of August, New Central will be hosting the One Middle Belt, One Voice Town Hall meeting, convening stakeholders across political, ethnic, and religious, not forgetting to gender lines, to deliberate on challenges and chart common grounds on the insecurity crisis in the region. Nigeria's Middle Belt is trapped in a cycle of insecurity, from violent clashes to mass displacement, Well, News Central will now be leading the conversation and pushing for change by amplifying the voices of survivors, generate practical recommendations for governments and security agencies, and also establish the foundation for a long-term regional agenda anchored on peace, justice, and socio-economic stability. But first, to join us in highlighting some of the issues to be addressed at the One Middle Belt, One Voice Town Hall is Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the Middle Belt Forum, Dr. Stanley Bovam. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks for joining us right on time. It's just a few hours before the News Central Town Hall will begin. Can you shed more light on what the anticipation looks like, especially from the people of the Middle Belt?
Good morning, viewers. Thank you for having me. The One Voice Town Hall organized by News Central to discuss and brainstorm on the insecurity that's ravaging and changing the entire demography of Middle Belt is indeed one patriotic gesture by the television to actually engage and interrogate the issues that are often misrepresented or in some cases deliberately distorted, that at the end of the day the truth about what we're dealing with within the Middle Belt remains a myth. In particular, the insecurity ravaging the Middle Belt dates back to the medicinal religious interruptions. When you look at the Kalakato, when you look at the Taliban, you look at the Boko Haram, including the banditry in the northwest, the latest one we have Lakura, we have Mahmuda. All of these fronts actually have a root that is all based on an ideology to what? To what? Chase, kill people, and take over land. Now, we have never really understood and interrogated the proof and the motivating factor behind all of these attacks. And the reason is simply because land defines your identity. Land gives you a sense of belonging. Your personality, your history, your genealogy, and whoever you are is tied to land. And that is why when you look at even a small country like Monaco, which is on the axis of the Mediterranean bordering France, as small as it is, in the United Nations General Assembly, it has what? A seat allocated to it. It has a flag, it has an identity, and it is given the status of a nation state simply because what? It occupies what? A defined geographical location. In other words, it possesses land. Now, by the time you take over land from any human being, from any group, from any ethnic nationality, you have completely stripped them of their humanity, you have stripped them of their identity, you have stripped them of anything that defines them as humans. When you, to further drive the understanding of land, for instance, to the Jew in Israel, for instance, land for him represents the covenant between him and his maker. And there are certain rules and laws that God has instituted for you to be able to occupy, for them to occupy such the land. And there are places you would see from the Bible where they did certain things by abandoning Yahweh to worship other gods, and they were what? They were eventually taken into captivity and they lost the land. But when they repented and came back to him, they were able to what? Return back to that particular land he has given them. To the African, land represents a heritage, an inheritance that is passed from what? Ancestors to the current generation, to what? It is meant to be preserved, it is meant to be kept, and it is meant to be what? Managed, because the ancestors' spirit live in the land. Land, to the average Westerner, it is something that is to be what? Explored, investigated, and the resources underneath exploited and what? Processed to solve problems in society. Okay. So, if land is this important, and that everything, what defines a nation, what defines a country, what gives you an identity is simply because you occupy land. And the people who are redefining the entire demography of the Middle Belt are people who have no any ancestral land within Nigeria, because these are people, particularly the Fulani, they are marauders who only invade, coming from different parts of Africa to what? Displace, kill, and what? Subdue communities and then take over their land. You will now understand that, one, given the principles of liberal democracy, which is built on equality, on liberty, on freedom and justice, as well as equity. Now, juxtapose that with a philosophy that is made on domination, on slavery and submission. You can now see that the pattern of all the attacks that have completely ravaged the entirety of the Middle Belt is intended to what? Completely displace, remove the people from the land, so that what? The Fulani terrorists can occupy and what? Eventually what? Completely change the entire narrative and the history of these places. Because for on the plateau alone, there are about 164 communities that have been taken over by these terrorists. They have completely dislodged the inhabitants and they now inhabit these communities. Now, the same goes for West in Benue State, where out of the 15 local government, 15 wards of the local government area, 14 have so far been taken over by Fulani terrorists. It is only the local government headquarters, Naka, that is still, to a large extent, accessible to the thief. In the Middle Belt Town Hall we held in Benue, of course, revelations came to the fore. And all that we can say is this: their mission is particularly tilted towards what? Killing, dislodging inhabitants, and what? Occupying their land. Because without land, there is no way you can produce your economic livelihood. There is no how you can in any way engage in politics, in economy, and in what? In the general economic activities.
Now, Dr. Stanley, if I may interrupt you at this, Dr. Stanley, you've laid the foundation for this discussion, and moving forward, because of want of time, and I would like you to apply brevity in answering our questions so we could pack in as many as possible within the short time we have here. What would be a successful town hall for you? Can you paint a picture for us, and what would you like to see implemented?
Okay. Number one, truth actually dies in darkness, and any person who has lost their land would certainly have lost their voice, and by losing their voice, they would lose their destiny. Therefore, this conglomeration of academics, of religious leaders, of political leaders, of leaders of sociocultural organizations, civil society organizations, development and community leaders, security agencies, and the entire public coming under a roof to brainstorm and interrogate all the issues precipitating the violence that's being orchestrated on peaceful and harmless communities. It's intended to at least be a clinical medication that would help us towards a solution to what? End the cycle of violence in the Middle Belt. Particularly, there are people who profit from all of this madness going on in the Middle Belt. In particular, there are political angles to some of all of this that is happening. And what we understand is that religion, like I have always stated, is principally and essentially a spiritual issue and exercise which arises from man's quest and search for answers to the ultimate, universal, non-material issues of existence. Therefore, if religion is now being used to champion and drive a political agenda, it then tells you the insincerity, and it means that what? There are people that are fueling and sponsoring it behind the scene. So what this town hall hopes to attain or achieve is to create a platform for a very, very honest conversation and interrogation of the issues from all stakeholders that we gather in Jos for this particular event. And beyond that, the experiences of survivors and those who have been victims, who have come face to face with violence and terror, would deepen and change the narrative, which is often sensationally distorted in mainstream media to give an idea that it is a clash between communities. The point is this: when you talk about a clash, there must be movement by two opposing parties. And we're talking about people, women, children, even unborn babies being slit into pieces. People sleeping in their homes, being attacked, their houses burnt, and in some cases their corpses are burned beyond repair, beyond recognition. You're talking about farmers going to the farm and being ambushed and killed. You're talking about even village members going for a funeral and they are being ambushed and killed. That is not in any way a clash. But the point is that there is a genocidal agenda by the Fulani terrorists to completely take over the Middle Belt, and we must speak out the truth and let's call a spade a spade. And by virtue of this conversation, which New Central has brought into the theater of this violence, I believe that it would significantly change the narrative. Because
Dr. Stanley Kawam, I would like to interject at this point to just clarify something, which is something that has it's been the cause of discourse, Fulani terrorists. Let's rather call them terrorists. There are those who would argue that, you can't paint a whole tribe or a whole ethnicity as terrorists. There are Fulani people that aren't terrorists. There are terrorists that are Fulani people. So let's rather stick to
from other tribes.
Exactly. Let's rather stick to calling them terrorists. How do you think that the rest of the world or the rest of the country can contribute to advocating for more attention to be paid to what's happening in the Middle Belt?
Okay, thank you very much. The point is this: when I talk of Fulani terrorists, I'm talking about the terrorists that are killing our people. So the point is this: by the time I see a madman and a mechanic, all of them looking dirty, all of them looking the same way, the fact is this: unless you are able to separate the mechanics from the mad people, as far as I'm concerned, since they all look the same, they dress the same way, they carry out their attacks and all of the violent orchestration on peaceful communities in the same manner. And the fact is this: it is not only on the plateau, it's not only in Benue, it's not only in southern Kaduna, it's the entirety of the Middle Belt. And even when there is even when there are terrorist attacks, even in the south, in the southwest, they're in Bayelsa, they're in Port Harcourt, they're in Imo, they're in different parts of the country, and it is only one ethnic group that has been fingered. So you can't tell me that there is no correlation between these violent orchestrations and the ethnicity of the perpetrators. So what we're seeing, I'm actually talking about the terrorists that are killing our people. And because this is what we have been seeing, and this is what we feel, and that remains the fact. It is not about, of course, we cannot say that all Fulani people are terrorists. But the point is that the terrorists that are killing people within the Middle Belt are Fulani.
Have you done an investigation? Have you interviewed
anyway, Dr. Stanley,
apprehended?
Dr. Stanley, I mean, the views you express on the live show right here, let's just make clear that it's expressly your views. It's not the views of the channel as News Central.
But we do have a responsibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. Our goal for the town hall is to ensure that we extricate, or better still, take a look at every single thing that has happened to the Middle Belt and also highlight the way forward, since we'll be having different persons from security and the likes all come together. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. But we're excited because we look forward to see you there tomorrow. We do understand that the team is already on ground, and you yourself will be on ground as well to ensure that we do have a smooth running of what will take place tomorrow. So thank you so much for your time, Dr. Stanley. We'll communicate again tomorrow when our correspondent will also have you join us again live, if not on breakfast, but on our other subsequent programming. Thanks for your time, and have a fantastic day ahead as we look forward to tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
But also remember that to continue this conversation, please join us on Spaces, an X at 8 p.m. today. I will be there as we hold our in-depth conversation with experts Also remember to tune into the town hall meeting tomorrow at 11 a.m. here on News Central TV. In fact, I want to host a watch party with my distinguished co-presenters here.
The problem is if you do the watch
after
party,
Breakfast Central, we'll wait behind.
Wait behind to
and,
watch.
I'll provide popcorns, you provide soda.
The unfortunate thing is we will not even
provide suya.
We will not be able to eat all those things. That's the unfortunate thing. Because by the time you start hearing the
conversation,
sad stories, you automatically lose your appetite.
Really
I remember the last one that happened, and you know how very disheartening those
I think Dr.
stories
Stanley
were.
alluded to that as well.
Yes, our responsibility is to amplify those stories, and that's what we're going to do tomorrow. We're going to break now, and when we come back, there's more this morning on Breakfast Central. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Let's find out what big stories are making headlines today. And joining us this morning is the exceptional digital news editor and research lead here at News Central Television. We have Abdul Latif, sorry. Man. Yeah. Thank you so much, Abdul Latif, for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Abdul Latif, always a pleasure to have you. And as a traditional man, as a man of many traditions, I'd like to wish you happy Shesha Day.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
It's today Shesha Day.
Yes.
There's a public holiday in some of the states.
Lagos State is declared today. Work-free day.
Oh, yes, state.
Work-free day.
Not public holiday, work-free day. On your own volition, you can decide to.
So why are we at work?
Are you celebrating it?
I have to, extend a hand of celebration to my friends.
No, are you celebrating?
No. But when there's Christmas, don't they used to take our holiday?
There are different celebrations. Are you celebrating this one?
When we are doing salad, don't we
welcome to the show,
After the show,
let's go straight to our very first paper.
To celebrate.
Yeah, who's the
Let's go to the punch. Let's go to the punch. And you can call in, please feel free. Big story, capital projects crumble as states cut spending. Governors citing security, red tape for 2.7 trillion naira capital spending in 6 months and rising travel wage bills. Wow. 36 governors unite to woo foreign investors via new platform. Ex-NNPCL spokesman canvasses tax relief for media houses. Thank you, please. Thank you. Our church attackers have ties to Al-Shabaab. A new report from DSS.
Interesting.
And then 2027 showdown. Wike fires shots at Amechi. Babachir trashes ADC. RMAFC faces backlash over pay rise to political office holders. Let's start with that. Let's just start with that. Before we go to court blocks SX NNPCL boss accounts amid EFCC probe. But let's start with the review, pay rise for political office holders, the president, the governors, and so on. What's your take on that?
So the issue with what those in governance do is that sometimes it seems that we live in two different worlds. A lot of Nigerians are groaning under the pressure of the economy. A lot of lecturers are asking for improvement in their salaries and all that. And then politicians are asking to have, as far as I'm concerned, there's no other place in the world where you have politicians earn this amount of money for doing almost nothing. Because we cannot see the impact of strategy, legislation.
But they'll say just 1.5 million.
It's not just. If it is just, then let it be just for lecturers. Let it be just for medical doctors. Let it be just for teachers. So we have a problem with deprioritizing themselves all the time. It's not surprising, but they continue to put themselves before others, and that should not be how leadership is.
So RMFAC,
RMAFC,
Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission. How do they justify their pay and their mandates if their recommendations are not implemented? They were established by an act of law for a reason, and they've done their homework. They've seen the economic realities, and they've seen that, look, the last time we reviewed salaries was a long time ago, and so many things have happened economically before then. So therefore, they've come up with this suggestion that, look, the salaries don't reflect the realities of time. Sentiments or not, they have a responsibility.
Okay, let's agree that what they have said is true. On the scale of priority, why is that of our leaders the most prioritized? I get me. So most of the people who are most impacted by the economy and all that, they had mentioned are those on the, at the lower rung of the ladder. So why are you prioritizing those that are largely not affected by the economy, and you are leaving out those that are most impacted by the economy? So it's a misplaced action.
Okay, let's go to another story on the front page. You're still on the Punch newspaper. At the right corner, I can see Yoruba elders weighed in as Alaafin Oni feud escalates. Brief background. August 2025, there was a dispute when the Oni conferred the title, I hope I pronounce this correctly, Okanlomo of Yoruba land on the businessman Dotun Sanusi. Alaafin pushed back strongly, saying that he alone has the authority to confer chieftaincy titles with Yoruba-wide significance and that it rests exclusively with him, a stance he claims is backed up by a Supreme Court ruling. And then he's issued a 48-hour ultimatum to the Oni to reverse that conferment. Now, the Oni's representative or spokesperson has refused to address this publicly, saying he cannot dignify the undignifiable.
Yeah. And this is a very new Alaafin of Oyo.
Yeah.
And they're already embroiled in controversy. And of course, this is not the first time it's happening.
Yeah.
If you look back in history,
1991.
Between Lamidi Adeyemi and the late Onishijo Ade of
Absolutely.
So why do we, is there a constitution that lays out in the Yoruba pantheon of Obas and the hierarchy that, look, this, the Oni of Ife is senior to the Oni, to the Alaafin, because this public display, so it's not good for the institution.
So I must start by saying that
traditional rulership in Yoruba land.
Yeah, I get you. I must start by saying that the needless squabble between the royal fathers, is very embarrassing.
It's become a royal rumble.
Yeah. So so the first thing is, I understand that Oni is as Yoruba as the Alaafin. There is nobody that is more Yoruba than the other. So the fact that, in fact, being Yoruba is a recent thing. Other people used to say that, like the Egbas, don't identify themselves as Yoruba, you get. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't diminish them from being Egba. It's like different nations, in a region. However, the problem is, as the Oni or as the Alaafin, your jurisdiction is within your kingdom.
Your geography.
It doesn't extend, it doesn't extend beyond Oyo. It doesn't even extend to Ogbomoso.
Are you serious?
Right?
Yeah, but historically,
history is different. History is different. Nobody's your vassal. So you cannot say what happened in 100 years ago will now apply today.
I mean, I read somewhere, and I'm not sure. Okay,
long ago, for example, it's part of Yoruba tradition that kings are buried with other people. You do that today? Abobakus. You can't do that today. We understand it's part of the culture.
I know that the last Abobaku ran away as soon as
he has to run away. You get. So it is wrong for someone, you ought to say, okay, his reign, stretches, as far as, Ile-Ife and all that. So you can actually give.
So how do you resolve this?
My concern will be
because it's now become a social media discourse.
It will be because
rubbishing highly revered tradition.
Yes, because sometimes how some of these persons emerge as royal fathers may be a little disturbing. There were squabbles around the emergence of the Alaafin, for example. So sometimes they are not properly grounded in what it takes for you to be an Alaafin. Most of the times, royal fathers are not expected to even speak. When they speak, it should be almost like law.
Absolutely.
Because they pick their words, they think through it, they will have consulted.
These are, in those days, representatives of gods on earth.
Yeah,
I don't know how correct this is. I did read somewhere about how when they were giving the history of the Oni and the Alaafin, they said, okay, they link it back to Odua and where he first landed in Ile-Ife, and that the Oni is recognized as the spiritual authority in Yoruba land, spiritual and cultural authority, with the Alaafin also being regarded as one who has military authority in Yoruba land. So can't all these authorities coexist as opposed to it being who is a more superior authority?
Yes.
Okay, so today, if you say the Oni is the spiritual authority of the Yoruba, people, how many Yoruba believe in the Yoruba spirituality today? We understand, we are proud of our Yorubaness, for example, but we attach certain things as tradition that we need to honor and not necessarily make a lot of noise about. If you say you are the military representation of the Yoruba, Yoruba race, for example,
and political,
and political capital or something. Do we have any war we are fighting in Yoruba land at the moment that the king is leading?
If you're fighting wars, it's the Nigerian army that
you understand? So some of these things, they are cultural, remnants that we are proud of, but you should not overstretch it. We can live together without having to say who is boss or something like that. So that's correct.
I mean, at the end of the day, we honor and recognize our culture and tradition as being the fabrics on which our society is built, and it would be great if this, I can't really speak about this as I am not an authority in this area, and I would hope that it is resolved peacefully so that people don't have a reason to start looking at the culture and tradition and speaking negatively about it. Okay, let's move on from there to another paper and look at the next paper will be the Nigerian Tribune. On the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, NBA demands immediate release of Osun local government funds and writes AGF threatens legal action against federal government. Osun Traditional Council 16 Tinubu's intervention. Sokoto boat accident, 22 still missing. NEMA confirms recovery of additional 3 bodies. Really sad. APC PDP under fire as Falana warns of global fallout from Canada's terrorism judgment. That's somewhere I hope we can stop. Toothpaste made from hair could repair teeth and stop tooth decay.
Ew.
Hey.
That's
anyway,
disgusting.
I went to the dentist 2 days ago, and honestly, if you haven't gone to the dentist, I advise that you go and do a checkup before it gets too late.
Did they use hair treatment?
No, they did not.
What did they use?
They did the scaling and polishing. They did a deep cleaning and did an X-ray of my tooth to reveal that there might be a degeneration in one place. So the sooner
you
you go and
speak
get
so well.
checked-
You don't speak like somebody that has teeth problem. Yeah.
I'm tired of you. All electronic devices must be switched off during takeoff, landing. NCAA says no airplane mode. TSOs seek independent body to select INEC chairman. Let's start from there actually. Civil society organizations they're asking for an independent body to seek INEC chairman. This has been an age-old demand, agitation, argument about the fact that who plays the piper dictates the tune. You can't say that the INEC, you can't expect the independence of the INEC when the presidency has a hand in selecting who becomes INEC chairman.
Yeah.
All right.
It feels that way, but the issue is if we were to allow civil liberties organizations to select who becomes the INEC chairman, how do you ensure that the person who is being selected does not have alliances to any of the political parties at the moment?
Can any human being truly be apolitical? But I mean, knowing that's why you are sworn in, that the organization you're about to head and represent, it's an electoral umpire, and the job requires utmost neutrality. So regardless of the president's appointment, you should rise above that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, they can ask for that, is whether we're going to see this ever being granted.
Yeah.
Customs Shippers Council meet over seaport delays, demerit charges, or war church attack. Court grants DSS request to hide identity of witnesses. This story, every time we talk about it, I'm looking forward to us finally getting to the conclusion of this Owo Church massacre. Benga and I have a friend whose parents, both her parents were shot in the Owo massacre. It was such a sad experience, and I imagine that every time the Owo Church attack story comes up, the number of people who will not find that closure until they find that the perpetrators of this dastardly act are brought to book.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a great one that they had the identity of the witnesses.
Yeah.
Okay, alleged NNPCL fraud. Court freezes 4 bank accounts linked to Mele Kyari. Let's speak on that.
So even before now, while Mele Kyari was still the NNPC boss, there was a lot of noise around transparency. People wanted to know what was happening in this, behemoth organization that seemed not to have, clear-cut, financial, the financial records are not clear to Nigerians. But we now have another NNPC boss that was almost embroiled in some controversy not too long ago. But one thing we have seen is that the finances are in the open. So it is good that people's assumptions, people's fears, people's, the rumors are laid to rest through investigation. So yes, let it be that, Mele Kyari is investigated, and whatever it is, whoever knows something about whatever happens, let them come out to speak so that Nigerians know better what happened in the years that he was,
It was all right. There's a story that I think that is important to take on the Daily Independent. It's a big story because it's feeling like aspire to perspire. Manipulations in last by-elections won't repeat in 2027, PDP vows. Do you believe this?
I don't believe, because sometimes when you say, what is PDP? I looked at the performance of PDP in the last election. For me, it is impressive, because left to me, I wouldn't even, you wouldn't even see those numbers. You have a party that is almost rudderless. There is no leader for PDP. If today you want to say, who is the spokesperson? Do you know the spokesperson for PDP? Do you know the arrowhead of PDP? If I were to say, this is my party, who is the leader of this party? So yes. you have a party that looks like it's in this direction. So if you are now saying that manipulations will not repeat themselves, the first thing is to tell us, how were you manipulated? Were you sleeping when the manipulations were going on? Did you raise alarm? Have you mentioned? Have you challenged? The election? Have you submitted? Your angst or your disagreement about the elections to the electoral umpire? If not, then you're just talking in the blinds.
All right.
And this headline here is very important, and it's actually an indictment on us as a people. I believe about 64 or about that region of Nigeria's land is arable. We're blessed with so much arable land for farming, but we spend a whooping $10 billion annually on food imports. Yeah. Why is this happening? I mean, this is a no-brainer.
So the most unfortunate thing about agriculture in Nigeria is that most of the governors who are in charge of lands, they say so much and do little. And I always put it to STA, strategy, thinking and action. So a lot of time there is a gulf between the strategy that is being used, the thinking that goes into the ideas of farming, and then the action. So you do not say that you want to feed your state. You want to make your state, food secure, and not inject the right resources where you need to do. You're not injecting into research and development, quality of seed. You're not improving on the yield that you had last year. Even, funds that are released for protection of land and what do you call it? There's this fund that you usually get every month or annually by
Land Use Act.
No, not Land Use Act. There's this fund for protection of land and water. Systems and all that. Ecological fund.
Ecological fund.
So good.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of times misuse of ecological funds. You're talking about the fact that we import a lot in terms of agricultural produce. People cannot go to the farm because of one, insecurity. Two, most of the arable land has been affected by flooding and all of that. And then when the farmers have boom, a lot of
post-harvest
yields, they have post-harvest losses because there's no system to hold these products and then sell them as it should be. People just go farm, do it like we used to do in 1900s.
And we're in 2025. Okay, you've talked about insecurity as being one of the reasons why we're still having the challenges we have in the agricultural sector. And I want us to sit there for a bit because we talked about the oil massacre. The bottom left corner of the Daily Independent says, Katsina seeks Tinubu's help after bandits killed 13 worshippers. And I know we talk about the stories every time and it feels like we're desensitized. It's put in a little corner in the bottom left because it feels like, it happens every other day. But I must talk about this. Tragedy struck in the early hours of Tuesday as gunmen stormed the mosque in Unguwan Mantau village, Malumfashi local government area of Katsina State, killing 13 worshippers during dawn prayers. The attackers reportedly opened fire on the congregation at around 5 a.m., shooting indiscriminately inside the mosque. Dr. Nasir Mwazu, Katsina State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, who confirmed the incident, said the attack was believed to be a reprisal following a recent ambush by villagers on a bandit group in the area. In that incident, several bandits were killed, kidnapped victims were rescued, and weapons were recovered. The victims were observing prayers when the criminals started shooting sporadically, and they added that security personnel from the army, police, and air force had been deployed to the area to restore the calm.
Yeah. The soldiers, the policemen in Nigeria are not enough to police this country. I see it as an intentional act of the state to under-police Nigeria. You cannot have over 200 million people over 200 million people, and then you have less than 500,000 policemen. That is one. Two, the reaction and response to banditry is one of the reasons why banditry has worsened in the north. Let me explain to you. Recently, there was an attack in Kwara State, Ifelodun local government, I think, where an entire village was ransacked and over 100 bandits on bikes came to attack that community. In less than 2 days, people within the community hunted, they looked for traces within the bushes, their forest, and they were able to get some of the people who were involved in the attacks. We saw the videos go viral. How did they get those people? You have done your attacks, but intelligent people say, well, we are not going to give up. We are going to hunt you down. They went after them. And you did mention our attacks, right? It was a governor that knew that we cannot allow miscreants, bandits, marauding, terrorists to continue to attack us in the name of they being headsmen and all that. And then he put his foot to the ground and said, there will be no more open grazing in Nigeria, in southern Nigeria. He galvanized the southern governors and they agreed. That's the late Aketi. And then they agreed that there will be no more open grazing. That was a provocation for the miscreants that came to attack Owo. Owo is where he's from. So their attack is, like an optic to say, if you are going to stop us from,
we'll show you.
They will give you personal attacks.
But guess what? The attacks in the southern part of Nigeria has reduced since the time the governors in the south agreed that there will be no open grazing. So it is outmoded. You cannot continue to openly graze in a country that does not even have enough cattle. We import a lot of meat, a lot of fish, a lot of livestock, and then we say create ranches. Northern governors create ranches. So there's a sentiment in the north that says, oh, we've always known that we have to keep grazing. You cannot keep grazing. The more times have changed. The more you continue to graze, people will encroach into people's farmlands, and there will be anger, there will be unresolved issues, and people will continue to kill themselves. So now that they've attacked the community in the mosques, what are they trying to do? They're trying to scare them and ensure that they are unable to, put their, themselves together to fend off terrorists and all that.
Let's talk about.
But at any time, people within communities have done their own bit. We expect that security is beefed up in that community so that they are.
Let's talk about the source of this banditry. Yeah. The source of their recruitment. Mm-hmm. Where did they get people from? Because every other day you hear that the Nigerian Air Force, Army, police have neutralized X number of bandits, but it's almost like there's a conveyor belt. What makes recruitment attractive? Where are they coming from? Are they Nigerians? Why don't we stop them from source? Or is there anything that can be done to just put an end to this?
It's a mix of a whole lot of things. There's a culture in this part of Nigeria where people do not go to school, where poverty has become a currency, where people have weaponized religion. If you put all of these things together, you are preparing an ingredient for the food that will feed a system that will continue to harvest terrorists, that you continue to kill 1,000 today and you grow 500 tomorrow. You continue to stop them and they will continue to grow. You have porous borders that are unmanned. So people are, some of these people are able to come in from all parts of Africa. This guy was caught not too long ago, the son of the leader of Boko Haram, Mohammed Yusuf. He was caught in Chad. He has a cognomen that is sounding like he's from Niger. A lot of the terrorists are from Niger. A lot of them are in Cameroon. A lot of them are, in Burkina Faso. So they come from all over because Nigeria has become the fertile ground for them to exist. So if we create a system, we ensure that it is a no to people who say our children will not go to school. Criminalize it. Because if your children do not go to school, they become nuisance to you and nuisance to the larger society. As long as, what is it that they say about the devil?
So everything, the idle mind is the devil's.
It's the devil's workshop. So that's what
everything shouldn't be military confrontation. They are non-kinetic.
Yeah, they are non-kinetic methods. But you have to make it a cultural taboo to become a beggar. Because if you keep begging, after some time you become frustrated, somebody will say, stop begging, come and take bombs. Blow up the church, blow up the mosques, kill the people, and give this to your family. They may look at it as something that is worth doing. So you have to create a system where people will believe not just in going to school, but functional education that makes you understand that once you go to school, once you pass through this route,
and productively engaged.
Exactly. You become impactful to
member of society.
Of society.
Member of society.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Abdul Latif, it's been great having you. Thank you for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central. We will now release you.
Yeah, so you can go back and give us those punchy online reviews and stories and articles.
That's right.
By the way, you can check out...
is one of the top researchers. I want him to help me research how to download money.
And just to quickly look online, there's one comment, and this was referring to our conversation about education and the changes that need to be made in the education sector. Felix Okechukwu says, this is what they should be looking at, teaching CBT in nursery and primary school, preparing them for future exams instead of doing graduation at nursery, primary 6, GSS 3 and SS3. So I kind of
like the fact that they've stopped it. They've stopped it in some of the schools, saying no more graduation, especially.
It's a means of extorting
so that way it doesn't feel foreign.
I like the way you put it. It's a means of extorting, and I know what you're saying.
You're speaking as a parent.
You understand? So they say we should buy a new suit. They say we should buy this, we should buy that.
Olive, do you know where I can purchase abacus?
Homeschooling is a great idea, but it's the practicality and applicability of it.
It's a tough one. But head on to our website, www.newscentral.africa, to read some of the freshest articles, of course, articulated by some of the best writers that we do have here. And of course, you could tell that the man who joined us on the paper review is also at the forefront to get the latest stories, all documented, written with incisive research and analysis. See what I did there? Just made sure that you will go there. Trust me, right? You go, right? I know you will. That's the show for today. C'est la vie. It's life. We have to go and come back again tomorrow. I'm Joe Hansen.
Over. Bye.
Bye. See you tomorrow.
Bonjour, merci.